the officer throws a couple body shots. Those are kind of the, oh man, I don't know how to control you. I don't know what to do. So it's just like last resort. I'll throw a couple strikes in there to make myself feel like I'm trying to do something. How you doing, guys? Coach Matthew Green with Effective Fitness Training. For those of you who do not know me, I am a IBJJF World Champion, IBJJF Black Belt, CrossFit Games semifinalist. We're gonna get started on a video analysis of some camera footage that looks to be taken by a citizen, a bystander, just filmed it on their phone. It's 26 seconds long, pretty short, guys. We have no background. I have no knowledge, context as to what initiated this physical altercation between this officer and this subject. It's not very pretty, guys. We want to critique the things that need to be critiqued and obviously shine light on the things that are done well. But most importantly, always talking about what we can do better, how we can go about doing that, okay? So first we'll talk about some of the key mistakes here made by the officer. So officer starts in what looks to be like a modified sloppy, like 2-on-1. For those of us that have wrestled, done some jiu-jitsu, maybe you're aware of what I'm talking about. 2-on-1 is essentially two of your hands on one of the subject's arms, except the officer's utilizing what looks to be like a straight arm bar. For those of us that have gone through the academy, it's a pretty common technique shown where, it's a method of taking down the subject, and passively resisting subject, where you're kind of just trying to pry the arm and circle behind their back. It's a very poor method of control, the way in which the officer is doing it here, as you can tell, because the subject's easily able to just pull away. At this moment in time, so the subject pulls away. Officer closes the distance again, and when he does so, he goes for like a collar tie. That's not bad, breaks head posture, but when he goes to, for that collar tie, he follows it up with a short grab, and then he gets on the radio. He's going to say something. He's going to mutter a few words over here to dispatch. I can't tell what exactly he's saying. Something to the extent of fight, I think is I think he's trying to let the dispatch know he's in a fight. Probably not the best time, by the way, for that. In the hundreds of, resistings I've been in, and anyone that I know that's proficient in hand-to-hand skills, ironically, you're not getting on the radio in the time of like an actual physical fight or some type of, call it what you want, resisting, where you're physically, engaging with the subject. That's not the time to get on the radio, right? The time is to use both your hands and, be in the fight. So that's a huge mistake here. The second big mistake is, as he goes on the radio, this officer grabs the shirt of the subject, and that's not a method of control. That's not how we control subjects, right? We use sound grappling techniques. We need to control the body, and that's through sound grappling techniques, not the arm, not the shirt. And that's basically what the officer does wrong here repeatedly, over and over again. He grabs the arm, he grabs at the arm, he grabs at the shirt, as opposed to trying to break, essentially take down the subject with a solid foundational takedown, whether that be a clinch or whatever, right? Like a clinch is a basic thing, right? You got to control the body, though. The arm is not a good way of controlling the body, especially the way which they're doing it. They're getting this push-pull, or really pull-pull match where the officer's trying to pull on the subject's arm and then the subject's pulling away from him, right? It's just a pull-pull battle. Of course, the shirt comes off because he's pulling the shirt. Goes to pull the arm again. They're just pulling. It looks like he sort of wraps up. You can't tell here based on the angle. It looks like he's maybe trying to wrap up a sort of modified half clinch with one arm here, the officer. When he does that, he's kind of getting lazy. You can tell all of his weight's kind of sagging the officer here. He's not applying good pressure, and that's because he simply doesn't understand the mechanics of grappling. He doesn't understand how to control a subject on his feet because clearly he's never trained. And we'll see how that works out in a second. The suspect pulls away. As he pulls away, the officer throws a couple body shots. Those are kind of the, oh man, I don't know how to control you. I don't know what to do. So it's just like last resort. I'll throw a couple strikes in there to, make myself feel like I'm trying to do something. They're not effective, as almost always. One, the officer here he's not a very powerful big guy. He's pretty lanky, slim, and also doesn't know how to strike. So the strikes aren't effective. And they're really not a good method of control anyways, as we know, right? Strikes is a form of pain compliance. It's not a form of control, guys. And that's why we want to seek, to utilize grappling techniques, right? And that's the key here. Let's cap it off. Suspect gets away, at least from this angle, and officer goes chasing after him. We don't know how it ends. Yeah, guys, this video, I hope it brings, an awareness to officers who, maybe aren't aware of what good training is and what sort of methodologies you should be looking out for. Grappling is going to be your main focus. It needs to be your main focus. Striking is good. It's good to know. It's, you have to understand striking. You have to understand how to close distance and create distance. Also, especially if you're fighting a subject that's actually striking you, whereas in this video, the officer is fighting an actively resistant opponent, but it wasn't an actual fight with, strikes. For the majority of us officers, though, the best method of control is going to come down to grappling. It's going to come down to how well of a grappler you are and how well you can integrate grappling within the realm of, law enforcement, guys, with the considerations of our belt, the considerations of weapons, that being both yours and the suspect's, okay? You definitely need to seek out a gym, seek out training. A lot of departments don't have mandatory training. Most departments don't have mandatory training. So seeking out your own training through some form of grappling, would be ideal, like a continual thing where you can go continuously and build skills, right? And then hopefully, use those skills and incorporate them within a law enforcement setting to be more specific. But ideally you're just starting with some form of base level skill in grappling first, right? If you don't understand the basic skills, it's going to be hard to teach you how to integrate all of the other complex variables involved within law enforcement. We at EFT have created a fitness 16-week cycle that's meant to improve our physicality within grappling. It's with the consideration of how can you best utilize and implement your physicality, right? The traits of physical fitness, that being power, speed, endurance, strength, range of motion through flexibility. How can we incorporate those physical characteristics within grappling to make us a better grappler, right? Because as we know just intuitively, a bigger person, if anyone that's been in a fight, a bigger person is harder to handle than a smaller person, especially a powerful person. If they're fast, they're big, they're strong, and they're endured, you have all the traits that are going to make you better at a sport that's physical. Anytime that you're engaging in a physical, close quarters combat interaction, having physical characteristics are going to aid you in that regardless of technique, right? That doesn't mean we shouldn't be seeking to improve our technique, but it does mean physicality plays a variable, especially at lower levels of technique, guys. You should be seeking out a good blend of physicality and technique within the sport and the realm of law enforcement, guys.